Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. Since it's the end of Season 1 of War Within, and since, got some time on our hands, and the patch notes and everything that I'll be covering for some of the preview content hasn't really come out yet, I thought, you know what, let me talk about some of my more peculiar adventures in World of Warcraft. And what I really wanted to talk about was basically the time a friend of mine got severely catfished in World of Warcraft. Now, I'm sure anyone who's played an MMO before will know how these stories go. So, obviously the ending's not a happy one, but there are also times where, things are a little bit different. And I want to share about this experience because I think it's important to understand that people only ever present certain sides of themselves to you in World of Warcraft and in MMOs in general. And I think it's a word of caution to a lot of players that no matter what, ultimately you don't know people on a personal level until you've interacted with them. Even if you see what they look like, even if you do certain things with them, until you interact on like a physical, almost real world level. I think there's always a side of people that they hide. So anyway, this story starts like any. I just transferred to a RP server. I originally had started my World of Warcraft journey on a server called Stormrage, and that was because a good friend of mine was playing on Stormrage with his brother and some other friends from school. I had just finished my time at boarding school and basically wasn't able to play World of Warcraft there. So this was an opportunity for me to play World of Warcraft finally officially on official servers. I'd spent years playing on private servers, and I had originally played the game only unofficial up until Lich King. So for me, it was a way to get back into real World of Warcraft. So anyway, I joined Stormrage, and we played on Stormrage for a very long time. But as my friends started to drift away, being someone who's super into D&D, I DM and run a whole bunch of campaigns. For me, there was a huge attraction to potentially playing on an RP server. I just convinced another friend of mine to join me in World of Warcraft, and since we'd be starting new characters, I thought, you know what, let's start on an RP server, let's see what it's about. I remember going through the naming process and saying to him, hey man, we have to make super serious names here because RP servers, they're super strict from what I understand. You can get punished. Turns out absolutely none of that's true. In fact, RP servers are just nice for high pop and some random RP. Most times they're just the same hellhole that any other server is, which is fine. That's why I love World of Warcraft. But yeah, so basically we joined the RP server. And eventually, as always, a new expansion came out. I think it was Warlords of Draenor. And my friends got convinced to join back in. So convinced them all to join back in, convinced them all to join, Argent Dawn, my RP server. And yeah, just pretty much settled into having my friends there, having a good time and just, playing the game, enjoying ourselves. Obviously, over time, your friends then leave again, and you find yourself on your own, which isn't always great. So it was only me and a close friend of mine because everyone had left. Basically, we're now in the position where it was like, okay, we need to do something. We need to create something. We need to do something with our time. We loved creating guilds, spending time with other players, especially helping newer players or just people who never got into the more serious aspects of World of Warcraft was always something we enjoyed doing. And so me and my long-standing friend of mine, we'll call him Nail, because that was his character's name for the purposes of this, we basically decided, we're going to start a guild, we're going to have an incredibly good time, and because it's an RP server, we are going to, focus on getting our group together and having a really, really good time. So we did exactly that. Basically, we started a guild, we got together with friends, in game, and we started building a community slowly around it. So it wasn't a big guild; it was about 20 players, but it was a lot of fun. It was around 20, 30 players. We would very often get together. We would do content together, we would do raids together, but most importantly, we would RP together. Whether it was just stuff like getting wasted in a inside Stormwind, whether it was getting slaughtered at a tavern in Orgrimmar, like whatever it was, basically it was just a really good time. Running around, running amok, just having a really fun time. And yeah, over time we collected a pretty odd assortment of characters. I think that happens with any guild. You get people that do certain things, say certain stuff, and at that point in life, me and my friend, well, we're both pretty much, at the beginning of our youthful 20s, and I think a lot of people at that time were. So we're having a good time, and eventually we picked up some people in game that then eventually became classified as our in-game waifu. As always, WoW GF, basically. The thing is a lot of it was all really for fun. I remember, for example, we used to make sure that they were quite low level, so we used to make sure that we would always, pop up to help and save the day because we are high level characters. And although you never know these people on a first name basis, at least I didn't at that time, for the most part it was just really fun to play along with the dynamic. We used to, go help them with questing, often arriving as the White Knight, the savior. And we used to do this quite often. It was quite a fun time. Obviously all within the aspects of the guild and the RP that you'd already developed. So while we were White Knighting, what was super fun was obviously this aspect of waifu wars, like, well, I've managed to clear this dungeon, or oh, we've managed to clear this, or oh, we're going to go do this quest now. And it was all just really good fun and games. But ultimately there was a emotional aspect underneath. I remember, for example, the person that I was, paired up with once said to me, "No, look, I must be honest with you, I'm a guy in real life." And I remember saying, it doesn't really matter. It's not a real relationship. It's for fun, to have a good time. And the joke then became that they were my husband. I don't know now if people would take such things maybe too hectically, but it was all really a good time. And honestly, for me, it was never really a big deal because, these things are just fun and games. It's all fun within the aspects of World of Warcraft. And yeah, so to surmise this, basically we were growing connected as a community, and my friend now really started to get connected with the person that he was, let's say, paired up with. You gotta remember, this was at a time when Discord was first really a thing. It had just kind of moved from browser to being app-based. There was a mobile app, like things were starting kind of really to take place where it was more than like a connection. Before, as kids, we often had Skype and TeamSpeak, but mainly it was TeamSpeak. And when Discord came out, it was different. It was like instant messaging, obviously, but with gaming. So you would meet these people in the game, you would give them your Discord, you would relate to them, you would connect with them, and you would share images, music, videos, thoughts, feelings. He shared a lot with this person. Anyone who knows RP servers knows that there is always an aspect of, I don't want to say, there's an aspect of horniness. It's one of those things, it's very evident on RP servers because underlying a lot of these connections is the fact that ultimately people like to get a bit freaky with it. And there was this connection between him and this person, which is fine. I'm not judging it. I mean, we're all real people. I don't really have a problem with it. I completely understand. But there was also quite a deep emotional connection that was starting to develop. And I remember one day saying to my friend, how are you feeling? How's it going? And, how are you dealing with things? How are you, are you connected with this person? And I remember him saying, no, man, I'm not that connected. I'm not that into it. And it was fine. I didn't judge him for that. I was like, oh, cool, that's sick. But you kind of feel underneath it, there was a deep connection. They were staying up till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, talking very often, talking on Discord, talking on, in-game. They were attached at the hip in-game, always doing dungeons together, quests together. And you could feel that there was a deeper connection developing. Eventually, we started getting into raiding. And with raiding, unfortunately, there does come an expectation to have voice. Not so much that you need to voice, but generally someone's got to talk. It helps the raid a lot. Being the people that started the raid, me and him were the ones that would speak a lot. Most of our raid group would be silent. A lot of the times, I think, especially in the case of, like, for example, my husband, it took him, her, them, whichever one, quite a while to be comfortable coming on, obviously, Discord to talk, because there was the feeling of like, oh, it would ruin the character in game or change how, I would dote upon them in the game. But no, for me it didn't, obviously, but I do understand the apprehension. So for a lot of people, they kind of hide that feeling, that side of them, the voice. And there's a lot of insecurities around voice, I think, for a lot of people. It's one of the things, the comments I get the most from people is, I don't like talking because I don't like the sound of my voice. It's a big insecurity for some people. So basically, we would lead the raid, and most people wouldn't speak, which was fine. We would lead the chat discussion, but slowly over time, more and more people would kind of enter the chats and get involved. His partner, so Nail's partner, let's call her Ayla. Ayla never joined voice, which was, again, fine. Nothing on me. I don't really have a opinion on these sort of things. If you're not comfortable, then it's more than fine. They would never join voice, and that's okay. But obviously, they continued to develop their deep connection. I remember a lot of the times, Ayla would comment in Discord or in the WoW chat that my friend Nail would have the sexiest voice, or the deepest voice, or the most masculine voice, lots of emojis, lots of emotionally connective comments. And that's fine. Maybe they're playing the part, knowing what I know now, and obviously seeing the reaction. Of course, it was not the case, but basically, yeah, there were those kind of comments, and it created yet another layer of interaction. Eventually, he would even call her and talk to her. Him, her, them, you'll find out, but talk to them, basically, and they would just listen. And I think it created a very deep, not one-sided, but very deep, interesting reaction. Eventually, however, one day, while we were busy working on a raid, and really struggling with one boss, me and Dale very often used to meet together. Like, we used to meet together, we used to always, come out and, how can I say, like, always used to partake in stuff. We used to go on lands, we used to do stuff together. Like, that was always our thing. And to be honest with you, it was no problem. One day, we were doing the raid, and we said, you know what, we're going to step out, we got to get dinner. I left to go get the food, and Nail, he decided, no, he needs to stay back. He's going to, stay back and, he's going to stay back and, quickly just do a couple things. While I had stepped out, Ayla had entered the chat. So she obviously realized or thought that we had left, which is fine, but then decided to leave the chat or enter the chat, and Nail heard a much deeper, more masculine voice than he was expecting. I didn't know this, so obviously I was out collecting food, and when I came back, let's just say he was not too keen on completing the raid. So, I said, okay, cool, no problem. Like, you're not feeling too great, you don't look too well, you seem a bit offish. Like, let's just call it a day. So, I called it a day. I was like, cool, hey guys, sorry man. Nail's not feeling too great. I don't really want to run the raid without him. Let's reschedule. We'll meet up maybe in a couple of hours or tomorrow, because I was there the whole weekend for the LAN. And yeah, so after that, I noticed, because we're sitting on the same desk, sharing 2 monitors, I noticed that he was getting a lot of Discord pings and WoW messages from Ayla, and he wasn't answering any of them, which is very strange, obviously, for him. He's a very polite guy, one of the coolest guys I know from that aspect, an absolutely polite dude. He's always there for you. He's very cool in that manner, and it was so unusual for him not to reply, because that's what he does. Like, he's courteous, he's polite, and I was like, hey man, what's happening? Why aren't you speaking? Like, why aren't you engaging with her? Why aren't you doing things with her? And yeah, no, he said, look man, I just don't really want to talk about it. I'm not really feeling it right now. I'm not really feeling RP. I'm just not feeling good. So I said, man, it's cool. I understand. It can be overwhelming. And eventually, I went home. I went home the next day, because he really wasn't feeling like it. He said, no, he doesn't feel like the raid. He just needs to take some time from World of Warcraft. And as much as everyone needs breaks from World of Warcraft, when we played WoW together, me and him, like I said, all my friends left all the time. He never did. So me and him were like an inseparable duo. We were, basically 2 peas in a pod. And yeah, basically, we really struggled, like with this. Like, this was super unusual. So I gave him a couple days, and eventually, like, he just wasn't really coming on. So I said to him, hey man, no stress. I'll just manage the guild for now, and we'll take things from there. Eventually, I got a call from Ayla. This is very unusual to me, because I'd never spoken to them on a individual level. Maybe in like a group setting, I'd role-played some jealousy, of course, because they were, paired up with my friend, my best friend, and so it was like, oh, you'll never be good enough for him. You'll never be the woman he needs. You're not good enough. Type of in-game sassy tsundere best friend roleplay, classic Vegeta Goku vibes. And yeah, no, I got a call on Discord out of nowhere, and basically they, I heard the voice, and they explained the situation, and I said, wow, that like, makes a lot of sense. My friend was and is a heterosexual male. He's very, very much that way. So I said, no, it makes sense. I think that could explain a little bit. I said, but it shouldn't be that big a deal. It's RP in game, so I'm sure he'll get over it after a while. And no, they told me the full story. It wasn't just RP in game. They basically had lied to him. So they'd spent the entire time lying to him, essentially just saying that they were a girl. I think they were from the UK. They told them basically their whole life, but as Ayla. So I am 21 years old. I'm studying this degree. I'm doing these things. I have auburn hair. I have this. I have that. And all of it was, I don't want to say fabrications, but all of it was slight twists on, themselves. Like, for example, they would say things like, I'm going to the gym now. I feel so awkward in my yoga pants, for example. And my friend would comment and say, oh, I'm sure you look great in your yoga pants. And they would send pictures of other women in yoga pants, things like that. They would often send pictures of, I know they had long nails and things with, their nails done, and just in general, a lot of misleading things that led to my friend being kind of put in a situation where he had confidence that they were, a heterosexual female, or biological female, or female, sorry, I'm not too clued up on the correct terminology, but that they were, someone he as a heterosexual male would be interested in. And this was obviously very, very messed up. And I think for me, it was always a lesson of like I'd always been teased by my friend, kind of in a way, as a joke, as a friendly joke, where he kind of said like, aren't you a bit jealous that I have this, really cool WoW chick that I know, and yours just turned out to be like a husband, like a male, and like a this. And I'd always said like, you know what, I'm cool with it. I'd rather that it's just out in the open, and if it makes him comfortable, it makes him comfortable. Like, I mean, I'm not that phased. It doesn't, my, sexuality, and that's not really compromised or affected. I don't have a big effect of those things on me. But I think it shows a lot that I think on the internet it's always difficult to see what people present. I know for the person that told me, quite early on that they were a boy role playing as a girl, they felt really bad because it felt really good being my in-game waifu. But at the same time, they really didn't want to mislead me. And I said, that's fine, because I'm not being misled. I don't take these things that way. But I appreciated what they were doing and what they were saying, and the confidence it took for them to do such a thing. And I think a lot of the times we get so caught up in how we feel about things online. This is how I feel. This is how this makes me feel, and this is a safe space for me. And I'm not saying people have to tell you their life story. I'm not saying people have to tell you their real sexuality, gender, name, location, anything like that. I'm not preaching to people that you need to be an open book online. It's probably more dangerous than not. But I think what is super interesting is that I think you have to know where to draw the line. I think you have to know where to be like honest with someone, because if you think something's misleading, I'm going to gym in yoga pants, and you taking pictures at certain angles, or you are presenting pictures of other people, that's lying. If you're taking pictures of your hand with certain makeup on, or cutting yourself out of pictures, or you're doing certain things, you're fabricating an existence to present a different thing. And once you've crossed that line, to showcasing a side, like part of reality, you're no longer just presenting as yourself. You're no longer just showing your online persona. Once you start mixing that online and that real world trend, I think you have to know where to draw the line. So this is just I don't want to say PSA, but it's just a story. It's a story about how I learned how these things can affect people, how I saw my friend basically give up with Warcraft for years. He didn't really play properly for like a year and a half, and even now, in a reverse weird enough story, a year or two later, he met another person who actually turned out to be a rather attractive girl from, you know, a close-ish location, like who wanted to meet, and he just couldn't. His body, his mind, his heart, like he could no longer cross that line. Like he could never really trust her, never really believe her. He was never really into it, and I think it shows that, you know, you can really hurt people. So that's just my story. There's actually plenty of stories that I have, but this is just one that I think, you know, from my side, I don't want to say enjoy telling, but I think it's one that, you know, has a good or a closeness to me where I feel like you can see the effects it has. And yeah, look, he's great now. He's got a lovely lady that he's with, and she is, yeah, really nice, suits him wonderfully. And yeah, like I said, he's a great guy, so he deserves it. And the person online, I lost contact with them over time. They left the guild. They eventually became very awkward for them. They really cared for him, and I completely understand that. But yeah, basically, yeah, to cut a long story short, I think for me, the last I knew of them, yeah, I'd said to them, you can try to repair things, but I think you also have to let things go. Like, I don't think you're not gonna get what you want from him out of him, because that's not what he wants. You know, that's not how he engages. That's not part of what he's into. And they seem to accept that. I think they did. Look, I hope out there in this world that they are having a good life, because they deserve it. Everyone does. And yeah, I think hopefully they learned, and I hope they were very honest. I did realize, you know, when they spoke to me, that part of why they struggled was because they themselves hadn't really accepted who they were, as both a homosexual man at that time and as a trans person eventually, or trans-leaning person, whichever way it is. And having now seen that and understood that, I do get it. It is intimidating out there for people to, you know, come across. And that's why I say, like, you don't need to tell everyone your story. Like, I completely understand it can be overwhelming, can be too much. And I think that's okay. You know, I think that's fine to accept. But just know that in protecting yourself, you can hurt other people. And you have to be careful of this, I think, the most. Because you don't want to, obviously you want to protect yourself, but you don't want to be in a situation where, by trying to keep yourself safe, you end up not only hurting those you care about, but pushing them away forever. That's it from me. Bit of a long story, but I don't know. I just felt like telling it, and it's the end of the season. So, hey. But yeah, if you've had any experience like this, I'd love to hear about it. I think it's really awesome to share the experiences we go through in these games, because I think these games are experiences. They're not just, you know, us playing games for fun. I mean, they are, but we are connecting with people, and we are sharing stories and journeys with them. So let me know your story and journey. And yeah, awesome, guys. Looking forward to season 2. Bye.